Hey Petra, welcome to our blog. Like I said, for this episode, I welcome Petra Molan, who is a pharmaceutical executive leader with many years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, either in big pharma, such as Eli Lilly, Bayer, Shire, Takeda, as a business strategist or big P&L leader. Or lately, she is very successful in scaling up business for the biotech startup companies. In her career, she has led on innovative product launches, either in specialty care or in rare diseases, in a variety of therapeutic areas, such as oncology, hematology, or CNS, and worked with teams really across the globe. Today, she's based in Zurich, in the Zug area in Switzerland, and we're going to have a fireside chat and a conversation on her career path, experiences, and sharing some of her learnings that could be of use for the next generation. So welcome, Petra. Can you talk us through your career so far and how did you get into pharma?
Yes, first of all, thanks for having me here today. Yes, you could say that studying pharmaceuticals, pharmacy, I did my PharmD, makes it a little bit obvious to end up in pharma, but initially it was not planned like this. So I wanted to start studying art or painting, and then my parents changed my mind and said, that I should study something that pays the bills. So that's a little bit how I ended up in pharma industry. But I started in pharma in a pretty classical way. As a sales rep in Eli Lilly, and then I moved myself, into marketing, where I presume that I used my creativity, and then progressed, in my career. And that's a little bit how it started.
Nice, thank you. And what were the important career milestones? What drove your decision to move from big pharma to work in biotech startups, for example?
Yeah, the milestones are always, I would say, personal. So when people have milestones in their career, there's not a recipe how to follow it. But I could say that my first milestone was when I managed to get appointed as a GM. So that was my first big role as a leader and as a P&L responsible person, and that was in Bayer. And it was even more important because I was the first GM female leader in Bayer at that time, after 150 years, and it was, I think, a great pioneering step also for all other female leaders that later followed. I would say that the second milestone for sure was moving from my home country with my family abroad. So I accepted a VP regional role in Bayer, and we moved to Basel. So it's not easy, to change the job, and at the same time, move the family abroad in a foreign country, and that was Switzerland at that time, and for the first time. So, but nevertheless, in Bayer, I think I had a great career over the period of 14 years. And so on the regional P&L responsible roles in commercial. But I would say then the next milestone was for sure when I was asked by Bayer CEO of that time to work with him and the board of management on a corporate level, and I was running the corporate center in Leverkusen. It definitely gave a different perspective, what I call the 30,000 feet view. And that was, I would say, a steep learning curve for me. So I progressed then, into global strategic roles. In Shire and Takeda, I was running big franchises on a global level. And again, that's important because it gives you even broader view of how the pharmaceutical business is led. So through my career, I was able to sort of gain a very broad experience, and I appreciated that a lot. And when the opportunity came a couple of years ago to work with American investors and founders, for the first biotech, Arvel Therapeutics, to build up the business from scratch, I took it because I like challenges, and that was for sure a challenge how to move into a non-structured environment where you have to build something from scratch. It was exciting, and I did that twice so far in my career, and biotech is for sure, and rare disease space is a very unique and specific area in pharmaceutical industry. And I must say that I enjoyed it so far a lot.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, you have a very impressive career journey. I understand you're a businesswoman, a mother, and a wife. So how did you manage the balance of that, and have you faced any particular challenges in your career?
Well, I'm sure my career and also life with that, had sufficient challenges. And yes, I must say that, the balance is never simple, but it's important to consciously be aware that you have the balance. And I had a personal belief that it's possible to have it all, as they say, right? And being a mom of when we moved, our daughter was pretty young, and she had to learn English and go to international school, and having a husband to support me, I would say that the balance is in creating an environment or support environment that you actually, can rely not only on yourself, but also on the whole support system around you. In regards to the challenges, yes, for sure, there have been a lot of business challenges because I always embraced the opportunities to take the jobs, which were very challenging. Sometimes it was a building business, sometimes it was downsizing, and which is, a challenge, a leadership challenge in itself. Sometimes it was optimizing the business. So, it gives you, sort of experience and opportunity to make yourself a better leader, also more versatile leader, so that that you can sort of learn how to adapt your style and approaches, to different situations. So least but not last, definitely being a female leader in what at that time was a pretty male-dominated world is a challenge in itself, because you have to sort of establish yourself as a team member, and to bring your colleagues beyond the thought that because being a female, this is something different and you should be treated in a different way. But for sure, the environment nowadays with diversity and inclusion efforts that many companies are ongoing is slightly changing and making it for the female leaders, more accessible, if nothing else.
Yeah, and that's great. But I'm particularly fascinated by the startup biotech space and global commercialization. So in the last decade, why suddenly are there so many companies? Like, what has changed?
Well, it, and there has been a lot of writing about it, that R&D in pharma is not only a very lengthy process. I mean, it takes 10 to 12 years, to develop a molecule or a product, to bring it, to the market and then to the patient. But what is also known is that the success rate of all this effort is sort of limited. There is, not that many products that actually come successfully to the market. At the same time, R&D is very expensive, and I would say that, there was a period when big pharma that where the R&D was in-house realized that it makes a lot of sense in a way to to focus their R&D efforts and investments and start collaborating and working on partnerships with smaller companies that are developing so-called outsourced partnerships, where in a way also the big companies are de-risking, like their research success. That has been a trend, and we see now a lot of biotech companies, especially the clinical development stage companies being out there, and some of them succeed and some of them, of course, don't. And that's an opportunity then as well for the M&A. Like the M&A space is also very active. So when the product is successfully brought to the stage that in a pre-launch stage or a clinical development shows that it's going to be safe and efficient and effective enough to bring to the market, so then a lot of transactions happen. So that's a little bit my view on how it is, which gives to us who work in pharmaceutical industry a lot of opportunity to participate in different types of companies. So nowadays there is no career anymore where you go to a company and then 40 years later you retire. So there's a lot of also movement of talent and as well opportunities to progress the career for many people.
Yeah, for sure. So if we focus on the European market, you were part of the global international expansion just recently with Horizon Therapeutics, which is now bought by Amgen. So what do you believe are the learnings that companies should have when bringing new products and orphan therapies to a global market? So what do you think needs to be considered when developing a European strategy?
Yes, I had an opportunity to be part of the international expansion, or I built the team and developed together with the team and the leadership, the strategies, to access the European or EMEA market recently. And my learning was, first of all, of course, it's very exciting, because you can see the results of your work, firsthand. So, but it's important as well to know that, yes, US is the biggest pharma market, and for the companies that want to be global pharmaceutical companies, of course, at a certain point, also expansion into Europe has to happen. However, my observation and experience, and also when I was talking to my colleagues in biotech, is that European market is in many ways underestimated in regards to its complexity. And as well the cost which it takes, to successfully launch in Europe. You can't really apply the US strategy in Europe because Europe is not one market. It's maybe true that the central registration offers, from the regulatory point of view, sort of a one-time approval. However, when we are launching in 28 different markets, and there is also language differences. And the structure, the business model has to be adapted to this. So it's also different in rare and specialty, what kind of business model and go-to-market strategy you choose. So in general, I would say that, having first of all, general and broad knowledge of Europe as such, also culturally, language-wise, in regards to different regulations and local country specifics is extremely important. And that makes it quite complex and sometimes challenging, to explain to colleagues or senior leadership that doesn't have that much of experience in Europe, why certain things have to be done in a different way, or maybe why not so fast. And maybe why we have to do it sequentially, because of course, you need to have quite some investments, supporting all this. But it's exciting.
It is exciting, and it's an area of particular interest for me, and I look forward to seeing what 2023 brings for the European biotech space. Well, thank you very much, Petra, for your time and taking part. I'll put my contact details at the end of the blog. So if anyone has any questions for Petra, then please feel free to reach out and we can connect. But yeah, thanks a lot once again.
Yeah, thank you, Laura.